gone ahead to lay this pattern paper on this fabric. This fabric is a 1.5 fabric of a trouser length, that is by 60, not Ankara. Ankara is by 45. So I folded it into two, making sure that I have 2 inches. I have 2 inches on the hip side. So what I'm just going to do here is, as I've placed it here on fold, I'm going to 2 inches on the waist. I'll make sure I have 2 inches too on the bust region, 2 inches on the knee side. I'll also mark out 2 inches, and then on the hem side I'm going to use 2 inches because I will join it with lining. So here I'm making use of 2 inches. On the armhole side, I'm just going to make use of 0.5 inch, just like I said earlier. So all around 0.5. On the shoulder line too, 0.5. On the neckline too, 0.5. So when I'm cutting, I'm going to cut it that way. So I'll connect it like this way. Connect this here, connect this here, down, and then I'm also going to, so this is how I'm going to cut it. So with my scissors, I'm just going to cut. You can use your French and connect it this way. And I'm also going to mark out here the two. I'm just going to sketch it out just to trace it on my fabric. So for this dart, I'm just going to use my pencil, hold here. Sorry, let me open this place. Open this. So I'm going to hold here, turn it to the other side, and of course I know where it is, so I'll make a point there. Then do the same thing here. I'll put here too. Not hit here. Put here too. So I don't know if you can see, this is it. So with this, I'm just going to draw this here, draw it to this point, and also connect it here too. That is how you transfer it. Then I'll do the same for the back. Just hold it, mark it, hold here, mark it too, just the same way exactly. So as you can see, I've gone ahead to cut it out, leaving my 2 inches, ½ inch allowance here, and 2 inches at the hem. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with these 2 inches, but I want to still trim out, here for the front is 4 inches, but I want to make it like 5 inches. So I'm still going to go down by 1 inch here. You can do the same for yours. So I've traced out the dart. I'm going to, yes, as you can see, I'm using lining, so I did all these things on lining. I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the back too, and I'll come and show us. So I've cut for the back too, as you can see, and if you notice here is a bit smaller than this part because I've taken care of the puffy parts that used to be at your back waist. You can check my previous video to get how to do that. Sorry, my voice is a bit down because I've got cold catarrh, so it's disturbing me. And let's go to the next step. For my front, I'm just going to notch the mid parts like this to know the center. Then on my linings, both for the front and the back, I'll put it together and cut off these 2 inches allowance that I added here. I'm going to cut it off. The lining will be shorter than the main fabric by 2 inches. So I've put the two together and I'm going to cut it off. So for my sleeve, I'm only going to cut a short sleeve. So if you have a long strip of fabric like this, what you have to do is just fold it. One, I'm going to make sure I have a length here. And then from here, I'm going to fold it again. That is for your left and your right sleeve. And then you place your sleeve pattern, pin it, and you go ahead and cut. Remember, I already added allowance for my sleeve. So as you can see, I've already trimmed this side off, just to be off. And you can see it 1 and 2 unfold for the front and for the back. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have a little alteration. This is a sleeve for another person and of course another measurement. So, but I'm just going to show you exactly what I'm going to do. So for this fabric that I'm cutting, I'm not going to make it a fitted dress, you know, this is fitted, but I'm just going to make it straight. Instead of covering it this way, I'm just going to make it straight, the allowance straight too. I don't want it to be a fitted dress. Then first of all, I'm going to cut, this is the back, so I'm just going to cut first for the back, and I'll show you how to cut the front. So I've trimmed it off, and I'm going to just notch to know the center. I want this place to be my right side, my right sleeve. So, of course, it will be like this. So this is my front. This is my front side. This place this way, it's going to be my front. Then I want this to be my left. Going to label it my left. So as you can see, this is the front side for the left. The front side for the left. The front side for the right. Now, you can see how I'm folding it, front versus front. I hope you get it now. So I'm going to shape this. We know this is our front. So I'm going to shape this for these two parts like this. I hope this is very clear. The right side, the left side. That is all for your sleeve. If you're not using lining, don't bother about all the methods with this lining that I'm going to show you. You can just go ahead and what you're going to add is just 1 inch for folding allowance. You fold it this way, 1, fold it the other way, all through, and sew it down. But if you're using allowance, if you're using lining to give it a finish, a neater finishing, your right side facing the right side of the lining, or whatever side of the lining, you're just going to hold it down with your pin. Remember, our lining is 2 inches lesser. You take it to your sewing machine and sew it by 0.5 or 0.25 inch here. You sew it down that way. When you are done sewing it down, you drag it up to get to your neck region. You also secure it with your pin, and then you take it to your sewing machine and sew it by that 0.5 inch allowance you gave. Just your neck, you sew it and come back and see. So I'm gonna here to sew it. And also sew on the neck. So I'm going to notch it. The reason for this notch is, this is curve, so it's going to give it a free space to relax. So in order for this lining not to be coming out at the neck region, what you will do is, when you turn it towards this way, you move this sewing allowance, you move it towards the lining, and you're going to sew very close. You keep moving it around. You are sewing towards this way, towards the lining side. You're still moving it around. You sew very close to this stitching allowance until you get to this other point. When we are done with that, remember we've dragged this lining and it's shorter now by 2 inches. What we are going to do is you take it to your sewing machine, sew on this side by 0.25. This is just to give it a neat finishing, so that the where you sewed will not be seen on the inside. Sew with this side too by 0.25, and then we turn it to the other side. So I'm gonna have to do it for both the front and the back. As you can see, doing it separately. Remember, this is if you are using lining and you want to give it a neater finishing. So from the armhole, I'm turning it outside. If you're not using lining, I will show you the link on the right top on how to just interface the neck. So you follow that link and get how to do it. So I'm just turning these things outside. So this is it. As you can see, it's looking neat inside. This is for the back and this is for the front. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take in my dart. Remember, I marked it out here. So I'm going to, of course, when you are cutting from your pattern paper to your fabric, just like I showed us, you are going to kind of trace it this way. I showed us the way we're going to trace it onto your fabric. So you do the same for this side. I already know what to do. You do the same for your back. So now we are going to take this to our sewing machine. I don't have light. I would have ironed this out to look neater. So but what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it. Please neglect the background noise. So when you're folding it, make sure you're holding the fabric and the lining together. So I'm going to fold it this way. These 2 points, take it to my sewing machine, and note that waist side, you have half inch here. So I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and sew from this point. I'm going to lock it, that is back stitch. Just follow that line. So from this point, when I get to here, I'm taking it down like this and get to this other point, and then back stitch to lock it up. So I will do same for this side, for this side of my back, and this other side, and come back to show us the outcome. So I've done justice to that. As you can see, this is for my back and that is for my front on the 2 sides. So the next thing is to join the shoulder. Now this is the part I told you to top stitch. You can see now it's not coming out to the front. If I iron this thing now to be very neat. So how do we join the front and back shoulder line? You align it this way. You pick for your front, your back, align it together. So to give it a neat finish, you take the lining for the back. Remember, this is the back. You take the lining for the back, still holding these together. You use it and cover the front this way. Cover it. Please, if you don't understand, just move back so you understand better. When you cover it, you take it to your sewing machine, and remember we gave 0.5 inch sewing allowance, so you take it here, you sew it this side. This is if you're using a lining or an interfacing to cover. Then for the other side, just the same thing. You pick the front, this is the front, this is the back. Align it together. Normally, if you don't mind, just sew it this way, but I want it to be neat. So I pick the lining for the back, run it through, and I'm going to take it to sewing machine and sew with 0.5 inch sewing allowance. I will come back and show us the result. Let's see what we have here. Well covered up. The next thing is our zip. For the back, we're going to put our zip. So this is our center back. Remember, we gave 2 inches allowance for zip, but now we've taken 0.25 inch to join this lining, so it's remaining 1.75. So we are working with 1.75 down, this side, this side. Here is my zip. So I'm going to take our zip and measure. Our zip stops here, but I'll stop somewhere, I'll mark somewhere above the zip, like 2 inches above the zip, somewhere here. Then what I'm going to do, remember our 1.75, I'm going to start from here. I'm going to start sewing here. I'll backstitch to lock it up. So that's 1.75 line. 1.75. So I'm just doing all these things because it's for beginners. Normally I can eyeball, or while sewing I'll just be measuring. So I'll take it to my machine and sew it. So I'm coming up, remember our slit, will have a slit at the back. So I'm going to come up like 8 inches from here, from the hem. So I'll just sew from here to here, and when I get to this place I'll still backstitch to lock it up very well. So this is it. I've sewn that in, and now I'm going to make use of this zip. This is an invisible zip. You can see the normal zip, the teeth is on the front, but the invisible zip, the teeth is behind it. So normally for this normal zip, what I should do here, if you notice, I've gone ahead to mark my 1.75. So normally what I should do, after sewing, you should have your zip this. So what I'll do is, I'll open it up. Then this one, this, I'm going to flip it and place it on that line that I've drawn. But the teeth will just be a little bit before that line. On the top, look at the stopper. I'm going to fold this behind and then use my pin, I'll use my pin to secure. That's how I will sew it. Get to this point, this end point, and I'll backstitch. Then I will do the same for the other side. Flip it around. Normally it's this way, but I'll flip it around. Still on 1.75 inches. I'll fold our stopper inwards, sew it down, and backstitch here. So, but with our invisible zipper, just what I did already. So when I backstitch here, look at, we try and zip up a little, put it inside, and now for the other side, you do the same. You measure your 1.75 inches here, and you continue just that way. So I've joined the sleeve, and now the only thing remaining is to join it to the side, that is to shape it already, that is all. So as you can see, I have my mark here, so I can just measure the same thing here, or of course I took 0.25 by the side, and initially we have 2 inches sewing allowance, so 0.25 taking it away from 2 inches, I have 1.75 left, so I can just mark 1.75 all the way down on that side. Starting from the allowance I have on my sleeve, I'm going to take it down. Peradventure you've missed the whole thing up and you don't know, where to start or how to start again. So what you can do is, I have a mark for my waist here already, and as you can see, if you can see, I have this mark for my hips, that is from my shoulder to bust here, my shoulder to waist here, my shoulder to hips here. So when you get those, what you would do from this point is, I already know my middle. So you can just start from the beginning. What do you have for your bust? Your bust divided by 4. And I will start from my middle and mark it here. Do the same thing for this side. What do I have for my waist circumference divided by 4? The same thing from the middle, I mark it here, mark it the other side. Same thing with my hips, just all through. Then I draw it out, and I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and sew it. So for the back, I pinned the slits together. So I'm just going to take it to my machine, start from my sleeve, and I'm going to sew it on. So I've shaped the sides already, and this is everything. Okay, just the final touch for the slit side is either you flip this way, and at this point, take it to your sewing machine. At this point here, you just stop stitch. The essence is so that while you're working, this one is covering this side. Or you just stop stitch like this, and then you take your hemming gum, place it right inside here, and iron it. This is all for this dress. I hope you learned something. If you have any question, please drop on the comment section and we'll attend to that. If there is anything confusing you, of course you can still drop it at the comment section.